Hi, everyone, and welcome to Blush and Bloom, the podcast where we have real, heartfelt conversations about women's health, self care, and everything in between. I'm your host, Gigi, and today we're going to be discussing a topic that deeply impacts many of us, African women and mental health. For many African women, mental health isn't always taken seriously. It's often dismissed as overthinking, a lack of faith, or something to be endured in silence. And add to that the pressures of family, cultural expectations, and the constant need to be strong. It's no surprise that many women struggle in silence, but it doesn't have to be this way. So, to help us navigate this conversation, I'm joined by Bolatito Afun, an HCPC registered practitioner and licensed clinical psychologist with expertise in psychotherapy, research, and mental health advocacy. She has spent years helping people understand their emotions, set boundaries, and heal from past experiences. And today, she's here to help us do the same. So, we'll be discussing emotional burnout, learning guilt, setting boundaries in family and relationships, and finding culturally relevant ways to prioritize mental well-being even when therapy isn't accessible. So whether you're tuning in on a walk or doing your commute or just taking a moment for yourself, I hope this conversation reminds you that your mental health matters too. So let's get into it. And to begin, I'm going to ask Bolatito to introduce herself and tell us why she became a therapist and what kind of issues she commonly sees amongst women. So please, you have the floor.
Okay. It's nice joining your podcast today. So, just as you've introduced, my name is Bolatito, and I'm a clinical psychologist. I trained in Nigeria and I practiced in Nigeria for a while before relocating to the UK, where I continued my practice. Uh, yes, my educational background is in psychology, first degree in clinical psychology, master's in clinical psychology, and I also have a master's in public health as well, and a PhD in clinical psychology. So, yeah, my journey into psychology, it's basically me trying to understand the complexities around human being, how the human mind works, and also a desire to help individuals navigate their mental health and how to like help how to address emotional challenges, especially as a woman in Africa, or Nigeria precisely. And over the years, I've witnessed firsthand impact of mental health issues with families or also in the community at large. And this actually influenced like my decision and passion into going about providing solutions into uh, people's mental health, either you're male, female, old, young, irrespective of the category, because mental health is something that affects everyone. So it's not limited to specific people. No, it's something that affects everyone. And I've been opportune over my practice. I've met with individuals, especially women, since we are focusing on women with various mental health issues, cutting across anxiety, depression, relationship issues, self-esteem, body image, and in terms of women who are passionate about their career, having issues about balancing work life, even as far as trauma, reproductive or maternal mental health issues like
Mm.
postpartum fertility issues, and a whole lot. And being in this career path as a psychologist has actually helped me so far to be able to help individuals in one way or the other, either with major or minor problems, to like help them journey through that process and provide solutions onto how they can either manage the situation or provide actual solutions to these problems.
Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense because I feel like with women's health, there are so many things that like are particular to African women. I particularly appreciate that you've also like done work around supporting women with postpartum issues and fertility issues, because I think that's another like serious topic that therapy comes into play. But before
Yeah.
we get into like more of all of that, let's I have a question on how like a lot of women struggle with stress, including myself, and emotional burnout. So, what are common signs that we're mentally and emotionally exhausted, and what do you recommend that women can do about this, especially coming from a place where therapy isn't always easily accessible?
Okay, so just like you have said, it's very essential to recognize the signs. So you recognizing the signs is you having the insight into the problem, and having the insight, knowing and understanding that yes, these are the signs. Yes, I am struggling with this. That helps you to like take the appropriate steps into self-care and the recovery journey. So looking at the signs, we have various signs. I'll start with the physical symptoms. Things
Okay.
like frequent headaches. You see people just talk about headaches, changes in their appetite, having gastrointestinal issues, like always complaining about stomach pains and things like that. Then also, it could also come as emotional changes, like emotional changes like feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or depressed, or sometimes having this sense of hopelessness or detachment. So, and aside that as well, it could also come from the cognitive issues like having difficulty concentrating or even forgetting things that naturally would come to you. You just realize that you are beginning to forget things. And it could also be from the behavioral signs as well, like withdrawing from social activities, not wanting to like hang out with friends like you used to do, or easily getting irritable, and or neglecting certain responsibilities that you used to do. And another aspect I would also want to talk about is in terms of sleep. So it's either the individual starts sleeping too much or not even sleeping as much as they should, or feeling tired even when you feel like, oh, I've slept for like 6 8 hours, but then you wake up feeling tired, not having, still like not feeling rested like as you should. And the last thing I just want to say in that area is that symptoms like struggling to meet up with your work or personal deadlines and having low motivation. And of course, when there is low motivation, it could also impact your level of productivity at work. So these are generally the common symptoms, like things that we should look out for as women, as signs of stress or burnout in our day-to-day lives.
Okay, thank you very much. These are very interesting symptoms because I could identify some of them myself. Okay, I feel called out. Okay, so I'm going to move on to another question because of course, I need therapy. So there's this guilt that a lot of women particularly feel when they always have to put others first. So how do we as women learn how to unlearn this guilt and start taking care of ourselves and prioritizing our own needs as well? I mean, like, you understand that Africa is a community-centered type environment, but also we also have to look at the individual as a person taking care of themselves. So how what approach would you recommend for this?
Okay, so talking about African women, naturally we are conditioned to like prioritize the needs of others over
Yeah.
our own life. So, and whenever as women we do not like do these things, we it often gives us this feeling or sense of guilt whenever we
Mhm.
attempt to care for ourselves. And this, like I said, is deeply rooted in our cultural expectations and societal norms. Like, you have to look out for other people, and you as the woman, yours is like it. Yours is not a priority. That is the kind of environment that we've actually, like we have found ourselves. However, it's very important to like take steps into unlearning that sense of guilt that comes with you prioritizing yourselves. And the first thing in actually unlearning this sense of guilt or feeling of guilt is you acknowledging that you as an individual, you as a woman, you have your own needs. So you need to recognize that your needs and well-being is like it's as important as as you also looking out for the needs of others, either the needs of your children or your husband or siblings or friends. Like, you need to understand that the same way you are human is the same way they are human as well. So the same way you look out for them, you need to look out for yourself. There is this particular thing I used to tell my clients, like, you can't give what you don't have. If
Yes.
you don't look out for yourself, how do you look out for others in the, like in the appropriate way that it should be? So it's very, very important that you understand that yes, I have my own needs that I need to attend to as well, without being apologetical about it. Like, understanding that yes, it is not about you being selfish, but then it's something that I still call being selfish, because being, if that's the word to use, then I'll say yes, it's better to be selfish about yourself. You come first in everything. You come first. So, and aside you acknowledging and recognizing that you also have needs that you need to meet to make yourself sane, so that you can actually provide or meet up with the needs of others, like your family or significant persons in your life, you also need to know how to say no, set boundaries. So when you understand, you've been able to recognize the symptoms. Oh, I'm already going through these symptoms of feeling tired, loss of appetite, poor sleep, and things like that. You need to be able to say, okay, I'm setting 8 hours to sleep today. And irrespective of what is going to happen, no calls, no messages, like, set that boundary. So you shouldn't you shouldn't feel like, oh yes, I need to sleep, but then if any call comes in, yes, I have to respond to the calls. No, you should be able to stand up and say, I'm like, say no, and not feel guilty about saying no. Because if anything happens to you, these people calling you, these people, you are prioritizing their needs above yours, they would continue with their lives. Meaning, you need to look out for yourself, know when to say no, and understand that it is okay to decline certain requests from people. And
This is a
you declining requests from people is you trying to show, like, you trying to show yourself compassion.
mm,
The same way you show compassion to people when you see them in need, you should be able to show compassion to yourself when you have identified that yes, I'm in need of sleep, I'm in need of quiet time, I'm in need of a time to just like reflect and just get my energy back. You should be able to show yourself that compassion. And also, you should be able to seek out for help. You do not need to feel guilty. You do not need to feel less of who you are because you are seeking for help. You are not a super being. No, you are not machine. Like I used to say to my clients, even machines, they go like, we take machines out for servicing.
they need maintenance.
Yes. So you should be able to say, oh, I've gone through so period of tough time. I've been this, I've given so much, and I need to recharge myself. I can't recharge myself all by myself all the time. So I need to seek professional help. And one of the things I encourage is this: as much
Mhm.
as you would go to the hospital and you'll be given like follow-ups, you walking into the hospital to say, oh, I'm here to do a general medical checkup, is the same way we should make it a lifestyle to walk into a psychology clinic and say, oh, I'm here for a monthly or a quarterly checkup, and
Mm.
just get that avenue to talk and recharge before we continue again. Like before you start facing day-to-day challenges and all of that. Because apparently challenges, like we cannot, life itself comes with its own challenges.
Yes.
So we should be able to like create that time for ourselves to say, oh, I'm so period, I'll be taking time out to seek for help, to recharge. And lastly, one thing I would say lastly for this section is that we should engage in self-care activities. Do things that makes you happy. Do things that makes you feel relaxed. Do things like spend time doing things that are your hobbies, meditation with loved ones, like as a lady, a spa day, things like that. Take care of yourself. Do things that you do not need to think about.
Mhm.
The fact that you are going for, say you are going for your pedicure and manicure, you don't, when you are there, you don't like, choose not to think about anything, but enjoy, like pay attention to every moment while you are there.
Mm.
That you are paying attention to every detail, every moment while you are there, and the manicure is going on and the pedicure is going on. That does not mean you do not have problems. Yes, the certain problems are still there, certain issues are still there, but then you not paying attention to the moments at that period does not solve the problem.
That makes
So
sense.
if that does not solve the problem, why not just enjoy that moment before you continue to face whatever life issues that might be going on again? So in all, learn to, like, as women, we should learn to take care of ourselves. We should learn to seek professional help. We should learn to say no, and also recognize our needs, that yes, I need this,
Mhm.
and my needs also is as important as the needs of other people around me.
That makes sense. Because I like that you actually like gave a simple example of what self-care could look like in practice that isn't over the top. Because I was about to ask you, like, let's take for example, like a single mother who's working, and she has to take care of her children. Like, what space in between will she have to just relax and take care of herself? But like this example you gave with going to the nail salon and getting your nails done and just choosing to decompress within that time frame, I think that is something that sounds plausible. Because
It's-
yeah.
I just wanted to add something. Looking at the
Mhm.
example you gave about a single mother, see, we don't, there are minor things, day-to-day things that we can actually incorporate into our schedule and would not even cost so much. Yes, because when you tell people to do certain things like self-care activities, they feel, oh, with the way Nigeria is, how do I get money? I can't even afford this, I can't even afford that. What about getting your kids set for like the evening, and as long as they're fine, you can decide to just take like a 10-minute walk all by yourself, listening to music, it's like you would not know how far these things help until you start doing it and you get consistent with it. 10-15 minutes walk all by yourself within your environment every day, it goes a long way. If it is something you cannot do every day because of security or the environment or the time you close at work, you could
Mhm.
dedicate maybe weekends, like a Saturday or a Sunday, just schedule that time alone for yourself. It would like go a long way.
That makes
So
sense.
we don't have to spend a whole lot of money
Yeah.
into self-care before we actually get self-care done.
Mm. Okay. I think this answers that particular question. And then when you said showing your self compassion, it reminded me of this. There's this lawyer I know, and she regularly talks about giving yourself grace, because there are days where you just wake up and everything feels like a lot, and
Yeah.
she just like encourages you, like, give yourself grace that you'll figure it out.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to another question about more about cultural stuff. So mental health is usually taken, a lot of people see mental health issues as a spiritual problem, or maybe you're overthinking something. So how does this affect women's ability to seek help? And have you, like, from your practice, seen situations where women were thinking that, oh, it's a spiritual problem, and then eventually through therapy, they eventually saw that this is just a mental health issue?
Okay, so in the environment where we find ourselves, actually, mental health is, especially among women, is something that most people see as mere overthinking
Mhm.
or a spiritual issue. And because of that, it has led to people actually staying away from seeking help.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed, which was also recorded while I was practicing in Nigeria, is this: people, especially when it comes to mental health issue, people do not show up in hospitals until it's gotten to like the last stage.
Hmm.
So as like things like when people notice that, oh, there's been changes in my sleep, I'm having difficulty sleeping, they feel like, oh, it's me, maybe it's because of this, because of that, or like just come up with one excuse or the other, and they leave it that way, and they become like that thing just keeps piling up, and it will not just come with one symptom, then another symptom follow, like, or poor appetite, now forgetting things, like things now start piling up. And by the time they now show up in the hospital, it's now something that you would not be able to like at that point, there is no quick fix.
Yes.
Let me use that word. There is no quick fix, because you've allowed the problem to like stayed for a long time, and you now coming at a later stage is just like, oh, it's this is what we can do, and it's going to take like maybe 3 months or 4 months before you start like getting to
Results.
see this or getting to see results. So when people come to therapy, I say the first thing I let people know is, see, I appreciate the fact that you've come into therapy. However, I would want you to prepare your mind that it is not a quick fix. That you've come into therapy today does not mean all of your problems that you've come in with today will get solved today. Because like people believe that, oh, I'm going to hospital. Yes, if it's a medical issue, you have headaches, this and that, you get medication. The medication can give you that quick relief, like
Mhm.
instant fix that you want. But when it comes to a mental health issue, there is no fast track or quick fix to it. So the first thing is, because of what the environment has actually like the environment we have found ourselves, people do not ask for help as soon as they start as soon as they start experiencing their symptoms. Why? Because they are scared of what the society, what people would say, because
Mm.
of the stigma that people has attached to, oh, you are going to see a psychologist, you are going to the mental health hospital. So the stigma that has been attached to it do not make women do like both men and women do not make people generally talk about their problem, seek for help because of this stigma.
Mm-hmm.
So people not presenting early enough when they start having these symptoms is because of the stigma. And
Yes.
by the time they now, if and also even before they present in the hospital, they some people get to like talk to friends, families, and they start getting a whole lot of misdiagnosis, because people will start giving, oh, it is because of this, it is because of that. Misdiagnosis. And when there is misdiagnosis, there is mismanagement.
Right.
So it now makes the whole issue complicated before
Yes.
they now present in the hospital. And eventually, when certain individuals now present in the hospital, because of the stigma that people have, like the stigma, the culture, misunderstanding, and 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 the likes, by the time they present in hospital, you now realize that yes, they are getting the therapy from the hospital, but what about the social supports? So because they've been
That-
going to the hospital, technically, in a way, people start like detaching themselves, like, oh, this person is a mental health patient, this person is this person is that, and I don't want to associate myself with this person. So
As if the mental
it's
health is contagious or something.
exactly, which is not. So most individuals, before they eventually bring themselves down to seeking for help, they've actually thought about, oh, if I should go to the hospital or go and seek for help, people maybe just few people knows about what she's struggling with. She'll feel like, oh, a lot of people would now know about what I'm struggling with. Then the stigma will be there. Then I would not have the support.
That is another big issue.
So
Because, yeah.
it just keeps going round and round, and until we break that chain, people understanding that yes, anyone can come down with mental health problem. Anyone can
Mm.
like, and someone coming down with a mental health problem does not make the person less human. No, it
Mm.
just means this person is struggling with something, with a particular issue, and they need help. But until we get to that stage, we would continue to have these problems of stigma, having issues with people having s- uh, delayed act of seeking for help. People will still continue to have this misdiagnosis and mismanagement, and people will still continue to suffer from support, social support, which is something that cannot be separated from the therapy the individual is getting. As much as
Mhm.
the person is coming in for therapy, the person still needs the social support from the community, from the family, not people stigmatizing and not like just making things complicated for that individual.
Yes.
So we still need more of this mental health education, like just so that people understand that anyone can come down with a mental health problem. And whenever anyone is struggling with a mental health problem, all we need to do is show them the love, show them the support. Let them not feel alone.
Mhm. So I have a follow-up question to this. I like that you mentioned this part where society also has a role to play in supporting a person's mental health. So let's take, for example, someone who finds themselves in an environment where they don't particularly see mental health as a priority, and then they insult the person for taking the step. So what's something they can do to let's just assume that the person can't even leave. Maybe it's their husband that's doing this, or they don't have the financial means to leave home, or let, how can they like protect their mental health in that kind of context?
Okay, so such an individual, the first question is, does this person have access to maybe going to the hospital, or like
Mhm.
or seeing a counselor, that like just some like a professional? So if the person is able to like get in touch with a professional, one of the things that the professional would do is this in that situation, that's like it has been identified that this person's what's affecting this person's mental health is is it's related, or it's something that stems from what's happening in the home. In that
Mhm.
situation, it is not only that woman that needs help,
Right.
because if the woman leaves the house, comes into hospital, goes through the therapy session, 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and they finish the session, and she's still going back to that toxic environment, the therapy would not be effective. So
Right.
she needs, as much as such a person is coming in for therapy, that person still needs like a soft landing, so to say,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
does not need to go back to that same toxic environment. So in that situation, as much as yes, this woman is getting the treatment, she's being engaged in therapy, the husband or the family in a way also needs to be a part of the treatment. There is something we call the behavioral family therapy, BFT. So it
Okay.
that type of therapy engages not just one person, but the family as a whole.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for answering that. I think we can move on to another question. This is very interesting. So as African women, of course, I've also learned this from my conversations with people outside of Africa, where there's this pressure to get married and have children. Like it's like every milestone has its own like level of pressure. Like, when are you going to graduate? When you graduate, when are you going for youth service? When you go for youth service, when are you going to get married? When you get married, when are you going to have children? And then it just like keeps going and going. Like, you have one child, two children, three children. Are you going to have
Yes.
more? Are you serious? So how can women protect their mental health when we're constantly being placed in situations like this? And sometimes it's even people who are close to you who are asking you these questions. Like, how do you protect your sanity in these kind of situations?
So I mentioned something earlier,
Hmm.
and that thing is you prioritizing yourself.
Yes.
Because if anything happens to you while you are trying to prioritize other people's needs, their life will continue when yours ends. So you need to prioritize yourself. So when people are trying to like put that pressure on you, like, when are you going to do this? When is this going to happen? When is it you need to do this? The first question is, do I actually need to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And why do I need to do this? If I'm doing this, how is it going to make me feel? And if I'm not, how is it going to make me feel? So it is more about you. So as women, we need to understand that whatever people say, whatever pressure people are trying to put on us, that family, friends, or the environment where we find ourselves, it's a
Mm-hmm.
question of how do I feel? Whatever that comes with this pressure people are putting on me, will I be able to cope?
Right.
So it's about you actually prioritizing yourself and saying, this is about me. It's about my life. How do I feel about it? If I'm going to submit to what these people are bringing to me, what my family is bringing to me, what my friends are bringing to me, what my children, what my husband is bringing to me, will I be able to cope if I submit to this? And if I do not, is this going to make me feel better with myself? So you need to prioritize yourself. I don't know how well I can emphasize on that. You come first in anything. I also understand that this would not come easy because
Yeah.
it's easier said than done. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's a conscious effort to actually put yourself first. With everything happening in our society today, it is not even about what is being written in a textbook or a theory. No, look at life experiences, things that have happened around us. So these things has actually given us insights to say, no, I'm putting myself first, not what the society is bringing, not what people are bringing to me. I'm putting myself first and I'm setting boundaries. Anything that is not going to give you peace of mind, anything that's going to affect your mental state, I'll say set boundaries and stay away from it.
I have a follow-up question to this one now because I think
Okay.
like times have changed where like I remember like growing up when I didn't have a phone and everything. The only pressure I felt as a child was coming from family and then school and maybe church. But now that we have social media and all this
Yes.
other the internet and everything else, I think protecting your mental health is a lot more difficult than it used to be. I mean, we already like see it in the news where like high levels of depression and everything. So what advice do you have for African women who are navigating this current age of the internet and of course AI and everything else? So what advice do you have for all of us?
So, so I would say what I'm going to say right now is not something new.
Mhm.
However, it's something, as much as it's not new, it's something most people still struggle with, which is you setting boundaries with your social media presence, setting
Right.
limits to the use of your social media. Because I'm not saying you don't have to be on social media or you don't have to be on your phone and things like that. No, but you should be able to know when to be on your phone and when not to. Because being on your phone for a longer time is adding both, is you accruing both positive and negatives.
Mhm.
Positive in the sense that you come across certain motivational speeches, certain quotes, certain posts that would actually elevate your spirit. In the
Yeah.
same way, you would also come across things that would also be so depressing.
Yes.
So you actually staying on social media and knowing, setting boundaries, knowing when to put down your phone, knowing when to respond to things online, choosing what you listen to or what you watch on social media would actually go a long way.
That would take
You
a
don't
lot of
have
time.
to you don't have to be on social media 24 hours a day. No. So setting the boundaries, knowing when to be on social media and when not to, would actually help a long way. Like I said earlier, it is
Mhm.
not new. In one way or the other, you might have come across it even on the same social media, people saying, oh, you don't have to always be on social media. Like, there should be times where you will drop your phone and just get inspiration, do things, focus on yourself without staying on social media, staying on your phone and things like that. But then, as much as we hear these things every day, we still struggle with actually implementing it.
Mhm.
So
Right.
it's not like we do not know what to do. It's about actually taking the step to do what is right to help our mental states. So for a while, like, try to schedule yourself to say, oh, anything 8 p.m., anything 9 p.m., depending on what works for you. And like, set the boundary to say, I'm not going to spend more than 5 hours, 4 hours on social media in a day.
Okay. That's going to be
So
difficult.
it is, and that's why I'm saying it is not new, but that is something that we, as individuals, we need to be conscious about. We need to actually implement, like, put that conscious effort to make it happen. And the one thing about such behavior is this: because it's a behavior that is learned, it technically means we can unlearn such behavior.
Mhm.
So if you can set the target to say, I'm reducing, if you check your overall um uh hours of you being active on social media, let's say for instance, you stay active for like 10 hours and you start by saying, oh, I want to reduce from 10 hours to 9 hours 30 minutes or 9 hours, and you are able to achieve that, you give yourself some sort of incentive for doing that. Then gradually you start reducing it, and that time that time you are not spending on social media, use that time, dedicate that time to something else that is productive for you. So, and you doing it gradually, you realize that other things that you are doing, depending on what you've set for yourself as the as an activity for the time you are taking off social media, what you are getting from there would help you in reducing the hours you spend on social media without much struggle. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand.
So trying to create that balance, putting in that conscious effort actually goes a long way.
Okay. This I mean, like you said, some things take time. Like, it's something I've also been trying to practice myself, trying to spend less time on social media and engage in other hobbies. So one day at a time, one day at a time. Okay. I have a question about your experiences so far with African women. I told you about this earlier where, like, have you noticed a difference in the way since you moved to the UK, have you noticed like there's a difference in the approach between like African women who get therapy here and the way African women in diaspora approach therapy? Like, have you noticed any differences? Like, are they more likely to go for therapy there because there's less social pressure to not do therapy here, or there's less judgment in the UK, for example, compared to going for therapy, saying you're going to see a therapist here?
Okay, so in the last 3 years, I've not seen a lot of African women coming for therapy. I have not seen
Really?
a lot. Yes, I've seen much more of whites coming for therapy and few African women. And the few African women coming in for therapy, they're
Mhm.
people being referred, like being referred either from their GP or uh they've been to here and he, and from here and he they had to come into hospital. But then talking about their disposition to accepting the treatment, I would say I've not seen any difference, because yeah, I've not seen
I'm
any difference.
surprised.
And I would say I am not surprised, because it's just the way our culture has actually shaped us, and like shaping the way we think
Mhm.
about mental health. I'll
Because
give an
like,
example. I would give an example of a particular person I attended to, and I'll tell you that it took me like a longer time that I would have spent with someone else. Like it took me a longer time before this woman could actually agree and admit that she actually like she needs help.
wow.
You know, the way we are being um the way we are being structured to have this strong, you have to be strong,
Strong
you are like that kind of mentality. That was exactly what she was going through. Like that was her disposition despite what she was going through. Like
independent.
like it's so obvious this is the problem. But you know, when we are still like, he was just so strong-headed, no this, that. And I was like, it would not cost anything just for you to admit this and let's go with this treatment. So change of the environment so far has not, like with the few people I have met, it has not changed that that mentality of like, or that disposition to mental health.
That's interesting because I was thinking that like somebody moving to from one environment to a completely different cultural context would need therapy to adjust.
But for me, from the few people I've attended to, it's still the same thing.
That's
It is still the same thing. It's still the same thing.
that's crazy. Okay. Okay. Huh. All right. So I have another question. Is it like this genuinely surprised? Like I'm still shocked because I was thinking that like, oh, when they move to a new
There will be
environment,
change.
won't do things.
No,
Okay.
it is just like, oh, you so you can take a person away from Nigeria, but you can't take Nigeria out of out of the person. That is it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, we're going to move to another question that's more around relationships and emotional stuff. So, talking about relationships, be it friendships, dating, marriage, how do you, as a psychologist, how do you see childhood experiences shaping the way we approach relationships? Because I was doing a random test and then the person was like, oh, what's the relationship between you and your parents? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? But like, I see like therapists tend to like go all the way back to childhood. Like, why is
Yeah.
that? How does it affect stuff?
Okay. So, uh, when it comes to therapy, when as a therapist you are trying to uh help an individual address a particular issue, we don't just look at like the symptoms that the person is presenting with at that moment alone. So there is this illustration I give to my clients. So if you have a tree in front of your house and obviously this tree has its roots with branches, and you just wake up one day and say, oh, this thing is it's not allowing enough ventilation into my house, and you decide to cut the branches, and after a while, what happens to that tree? The branches will grow again.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you decide to say, oh, I'm cutting down this tree and uprooting the roots, what happens? That's the end of the tree.
Right.
So bringing this illustration to mental health, the symptoms: poor sleep, loss of appetite, feeling low, hopelessness, name it, anxiety, and all of that, I would call them the branches of the tree. So you're coming into therapy session to say, oh, what can I do to help my sleep? What can I do to help me feel better? I feel hopeless. I feel low in mood. What can I? These are all the branches. And you are coming in with the mindset or with the expectation of, oh, if I go to therapy, they would give me coping strategies to actually address all of these symptoms. But then therapy does not work that way. Because if I help you with coping techniques on, or do this, do certain breathing exercise, do that, it would help you to like help you help improve with your sleep and things like that. I tell you, you'll realize that you do all of those techniques consistently and the problem is still there. So what we do in therapy is we'll go down to the roots. You're addressing the etiology of that problem. So we want to know, so what was the childhood like? What was the upbringing like? So basically, we call it using the psychodynamic theory. So you are going back to what are those unresolved childhood conflicts? What are those unresolved childhood problems that this person might have gone through
Right.
that is now causing all of these symptoms, all of these problems that this person is having? So it is not about addressing your current headache, your current poor sleep, your current agitations, your current fears, nightmares. No, it is not just about that. It is about understanding where is this coming from. And that is why when you go for therapy, depending on the type of therapy that the therapist is using for the patient, not all therapists would do that. Say for instance,
Okay.
if I want to use solution focused therapy for an individual, I would not go back as far as understanding what's the root cause. So different therapies with different approach. So that's the same way we have different school of thoughts when it comes to therapy, different models when it comes to therapy. So it depends on what the therapist is using. But
Okay.
most of the time, most therapies would prefer to address the problem from the root cause. Like, what's the etiology of this problem? Where is this actually coming from? Then we can address the issue.
That makes sense.
So whatever an individual has been through growing up, whatever trauma it is, they all have their influence on an individual's mental state.
Okay. Okay. All right. That makes a whole lot of sense. And I
Okay.
like that you explained like it's different models, so different approaches.
Yeah.
Okay. We are getting towards the end of the podcast now. So I have a few more questions to go, maybe one or two. And I appreciate that the way you answered the previous questions. It covered the questions I did prepare for the podcast. So really, really happy about that. So
Okay.
so a final question right now is for a woman who is listening right now and feeling overwhelmed, because we've discussed about so many approaches and so many ways and so many topics during this talk. What's one first small step that they can take to improve their mental health?
Okay, so I know we've talked about therapy not easily accessible for certain individuals,
Hmm.
and because of the culture and the society we find ourselves,
Yes.
I would say, as a woman out there, the first thing is you prioritizing yourself, understanding your strength and your weakness, understanding you as a person,
Mhm.
that I have my needs, I am important, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. We cannot always be that um uh that woman full of 100% strength. No,
Mhm.
we need to recognize that there are times that, yes, we need to face our weaknesses. So you acknowledging your strength and your weaknesses, like, this is me. And also you actually creating time for yourself. Create time for yourself. And lastly, I would say try to engage in, no matter how little, acts of gratitude.
Right.
Acts of gratitude. Celebrating every little wins.
Mhm.
And lastly, with your weakness, seek for help. Talk to someone, talk to a professional. But while trying to like get in touch with a professional, get things sorted for yourself, focus more on your strengths and follow through that. It is something I call like a gratitude exercise.
Like gratitude journaling.
Yes, do this for yourself. It will help you a long way. It will help a long way while you're waiting or trying to reach out to professionals, while you're trying to like get help to address whatever problem you might be going through. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then the final question, and then we'll wrap things up. So let's say someone really appreciates the way you spoke during this podcast and they would like to reach out to you for a consultation. What's the best way to reach out to you?
I actually am much more active on my LinkedIn, and
Okay.
my name is Bolatito Afun, and you can also message me on Instagram. So it's either on Instagram or on LinkedIn, or you just send me an email. My email is on my LinkedIn page as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
now I'm going to wrap this up. So I hope I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. That was such a rich and insightful conversation. And whether it's navigating cultural expectations, setting boundaries, finding ways to support your mental well-being, remember that you're not alone in this journey. A huge thank you to Bolatito for sharing her experiences and expertise with us. If you found this episode meaningful, be sure to subscribe, share, leave a review. It really helps get this sort of important conversations to more people. You can follow Asele, which is the company behind Blush and Bloom, on Instagram at asele.tech for updates, and visit our website at asele.tech. And you can also check out the show notes. I will leave the contact information about Spolatito in the show notes as well, so you can reach out to her if you need to. And details about the next episode and other resources. And of course, if you prefer Spotify, Blush and Bloom is also available on Spotify. So Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you in our next episode.